Hi, how are we doing tonight? I'm Eddie Hochschlag, and I'm your co-host here at Natural Health, and we're going over high cholesterol and blood pressure for our health shop tonight. Just a little summary of what we're going to be going on. So Dr. Markey is going to talk a little bit about high blood pressure, what the cause is, as well as normalizing the blood pressure. Dr. Chip will be talking about the brain and cholesterol and the stress that comes with the blood pressure. And I'm going to be taking an approach emotionally with emotional cholesterol and with the subconscious habits. So that's a little bit of a summary. Off first is Dr. Mark.
Great. So we're having fun so far. So the causes of high blood pressure, there are many, and nutritional deficiencies, overeating, refined carbs, all kind of problems with that. The main thing for people to realize, and that's what we do in our office with our nutrition response testing, is that taking medication for high blood pressure is not helping the high blood pressure. You still have high blood pressure. You're just controlling the number. So you're not gaining a lot that way. You're not working towards health. It's like the high blood pressure is your body's way of, like the light at the dashboard of the car blinking, going something's wrong. So if you're taking blood pressure medication, you're just putting tape over the light, and you're not really helping the underlying causes. So there's a lot of different causes for high blood pressure, why it gets that way, and then sugar's behind a lot of it. So it's really important to realize that. And of course, when you look at the side effects of medication, there's no long-term studies there. The problem with that is, for instance, in high blood pressure medication, the long-term side effect is congestive heart failure. Everybody knows that clinically, but nobody looks at that pharmacologically. So when you're forcing the heart not to work well for years, it enlarges and it gets weak, and the valves don't work, and you have congestive heart failure, and then you have all the other problems that go with that. So that's just a big problem there. Just want to kind of touch on some of the things that are on. Well, kind of covered that pretty much. And again, we don't have a problem with people taking medication for a short term. If you have extremely high numbers or you're going to stroke, by all means do that. But just to realize you're not really helping the whole picture of health. And that's what we're looking at, is really the whole picture of health. Nutritional deficiencies, for instance, vitamin B is a big one that people are deficient in, and we're talking about the vitamin B complex here. And we look at vitamin B complex as coming from food, not from a pill that just says vitamin B or B, 28, 10,000 milligrams. No, we're looking at actually a food source where you should get the vitamin B complexes from. High stress levels, of course, that's just going to drive things up, and overuse of medications, that kind of thing. Epigenetics, people should sometimes have a genetic preponderance for high blood pressure in their family, but that's just a warning light going off that we're having problems. So you want to get that handled in there. And another good discussion we're talking about is blood pressure. What is the normal blood pressure? Well, the average of the population is 120/80. Now, that's starting to raise a little bit, so they're just using that average number. The thing, again, people don't realize is that your normal might be 130/90, and you're trying to suppress it down to 120/80. Or your normal might be 110/70, and you're going, oh my gosh, it's not 100. Everybody's worried about that number. That's a big problem that we have to work on. Blood pressure, again, is kind of a relative thing, and a lot of times people just need to find out the one that works for them, or a blood pressure number. The other thing, just flashed back in my head, I almost forgot. The other thing is, when you take blood pressure, it's meant to be a resting blood pressure, and this means resting. It means you should be either laying down or sitting down for at least 10 minutes without watching the TV, without talking on the phone, without doing all kind of things that aggravate you. That's the blood pressure. That is the blood pressure number. Not when you race into the doctor's office after you've been sitting for 2 hours and you're all mad, and you run in there quick and you plop down on the chair and you take the blood pressure and it's 200/100. You're going, oh my God, we got to be on medication. Well, no, that's not the right number. So, and that's done all the time. We see that done all the time in the patients that come into our office that are not settled down and then don't take the correct number, don't get the actual right number. So I probably blattered on enough about the causes. And again, we in our office, we look at what is the individual patient's cause. There are, again, many causes, and usually the kidneys are involved, and we see patients that are on water pills, hydrochlorothiazide, which is great for a water pill, but then you have potassium deficiency, and you start that skipping heartbeat. You're on another one for that. I mean, it just goes on and on. So the problem is you're not fixing the problem. Another big one is sugar, causing insulin spikes, irritate the blood vessels constrict. Then you have high blood pressure. So you're using beta blockers, all the other things they use for that. And again, you're not handling the problem, which is too much sugar. So anyway, that's a big thing what we do in our office is figuring out what is the underlying cause, get people off the medication. Again, because we've handled the problem that way. Okay, enough about that. Cholesterol myths. So a lot of cholesterol myths out there, that you've probably seen a lot of these. Cholesterol is a deadly poison. Well, no, I mean, your body makes cholesterol. And so let's just look at how cholesterol is handled in our mainstream medical world. And again, we're not against people that have really high numbers that need it, but there's been a lot of problems in this. Let's start at the very beginning, back when heart blood pressure or cholesterol became an issue. This is back when President Eisenhower had a heart attack, and the country kind of went bananas about, oh my gosh, everyone's having blood pressure issues. So there was some scientists that kind of thought they had it figured out. One of the big one was Ancel Keys, and he decided that it had to do with cholesterol. That's what he decided. And so he did a few little studies, and they kind of thought maybe that's what it was. And we're going to have some information on here about some videos you can get a hold of that go into this in a lot more detail. But the basic thing came up to that's what he wanted it to be. That's what he decided it to be. The medical profession kind of followed him. And right now, they don't even want to look at anything else. That's just what they decided it is. Well, the problem is it's wrong. The problem is not the cholesterol, it's not the problem. The sugar causes the insulin spikes that causes the blood vessels to have irritation. The body puts cholesterol there to help stop the inflammation and calm it all down. That's the problem. It's not the cholesterol. So yes, it's true that if cholesterol is there and if there gets to be a break in the blood vessel and you have bleeding and plaquing, and that plaque breaks off and causes a stroke, yes, that is a problem, but that's not what's causing it. The cause is the sugar. So you can take statin drugs to your blue in the face, but if you keep eating sugar and crap, you're going to have irritated blood vessels. You're going to have the problem underlying. It's called metabolic syndrome, syndrome X, insulin resistance, all that kind of fun stuff. And let's quickly go over this, and I won't take too much longer. I can talk about this for like 5 hours until I'm just red in the face. But so you're using a statin drug here to lower cholesterol. How does a statin drug work? A statin drug works by forcing the liver not to make cholesterol. So the question is never asked, why is the body making cholesterol? What's the deal? So why do you think the body's making cholesterol? Because it's got irritation. It's got problems. There's something going on in there, and it wants to make cholesterol to stop this. Another thing that people don't realize is, and maybe they do, your brain is 60–80% cholesterol by weight. So if you're on a cholesterol medication, you're not making cholesterol because you're forcing it down because you're worried about that one number. Guess what the problems are right now? Alzheimer's, dementia, all this stuff, all these houses now for that kind of problem. So a lot of problems with that whole theory. And this information is all pretty much known on the PhD level, the research level. It's going to take, who knows, 20, 50 years to get it into the patient handling through the MDs, because again, there's a major pharmaceutical industry built up around cholesterol medications, treating heart disease, the treatment thereof, all that kind of fun stuff. So I think that is quite a bit there. Mental and physical stresses and influences cholesterol, again, because the body wants the cholesterol for a certain reason. Let's see, high cholesterol, promotes because of heart disease. And again, I kind of explained that because of the reason of the inflammation of blood vessels. Okay, people there, I mean, the statistics and things are in about that. So, and again, even when they started looking at cholesterol, I looked at it at 300 as the number for cholesterol. Now it's down to 200 or less. So, again, and really, if you look into a lot of the research articles, none of the cholesterol drugs have shown even to be effective at preventing or promoting a longer health or any kind of a quality of life. So it can affect the number. They do good at that number, but that's not looking at the underlying cause. So I think that's probably the main things that I was going to go over. There is a really good book called The Cholesterol Myths. It's by Dr. Ravskovs, Ravnskovs, and it goes into a lot of detail and things too. Do we have that?
It's in the description.
Okay, in the description here is the list of the videos out there. I'll give you a couple names real quick. You can investigate on your own. Ivor Cummins has a really good explanation of this problem, and he is an engineer. And the interesting thing, he's coming from a point of view that's not medical. He's already away from this Ansel Keys background cholesterol thing. So it's a really good thing there. Dr. Robert Lustig has a really good YouTube channel also talking about sugar and the issues behind it there. And he's an MD. And a lot of MDs know this stuff too. Again, but it's not usual customer. They have to kind of fight the headwaters to getting that kind of information out. So that's the main ones, and they have their own YouTube channel, a lot more explanation there. So I think that's probably enough for me. I'll stop blathering on, and we'll let Dr. Chip take over, and I'll be back.
Hello. Well, Dr. Martin just did such a great job there. So we're going to go ahead, and we're going to talk about how cholesterol and blood pressure is related to the nervous system. So brain health. So why is cholesterol important? Again, Dr. Mark, he hit on a lot of good topics there, a lot of good points about why cholesterol is needed, why it's healthy for the body. But here's a couple more things here. Again, the brain makes up 2 to 3% of the body weight. It's a lot of it. It's a lot. The brain uses a lot of energy, and so 25% of the cholesterol found in the body is in the brain. And so again, your brain really needs cholesterol, and if you're not getting it in your diet, your body will make it itself. But again, more stress will cause those stores of cholesterol to plummet here. And so why is cholesterol important? Well, it's important for membrane function. Again, every cell in your body has a membrane layer, and cholesterol is a part of that membrane layer. So wouldn't you think it'd be important to have cholesterol as a good source of your diet? Again, it's used for antioxidants, production of hormones such as testosterone, progesterone, estrogen, and then vitamin D. Again, people think this is a little did you know here, but vitamin D is not really much of a vitamin, but it's more of a pro-hormone. It's more of it's needed to create the hormones for the body. So vitamin D is important for absorbing calcium. And why that's crucial is that if you're not absorbing calcium, if you're just taking in more and more calcium, if you're not going to absorb it, you're not getting it into the bones, and now your body can't use it. It's not going to build up those strong bones like you heard many years ago about drinking plenty of milk and all that. But again, vitamin D is very important. And so here is a research article about why cholesterol is important for brain health. And so this article here says better memory functioning associated with higher total and low density lipoprotein cholesterol levels in very elderly subjects without the apolipoprotein E4 allele. So forget that little last part there. What it's meaning, or what it's saying is that, or what the studies show is that high cholesterol is associated with better memory function. And so people are scared of cholesterol, but again, we've got more and more of these problems with depression, Alzheimer's, dementia, and again, the cholesterol makes up a lot of the brain, so it's very important that you need cholesterol for brain function. And again, low cholesterol is associated with increased risk of depression and death. A side note, so again, we've been hearing more and more about statin drugs, and they're now changing the recommendations for statin medications. They're saying that they're not quite needed as much as they thought that needed. So, and why is that? Because they're starting to realize that cholesterol is very important for the human body. Just a metaphor to explain a little bit about why cholesterol is important. Again, cholesterol has been demonized for a long time. It's been seen as the problem, but it's actually the helper. Again, what Dr. Mark was explaining is that when you're having inflammation due to different stress, such as sugar, the arterial lining starts to get irritated, and that's why cholesterol is being pumped into the blood by the body so that it can repair those arterial walls. So you can see is that I put up a firefighter here. You're not blaming the firefighter for the fires. They're just here to help put out the fire. And that's what cholesterol is doing. It's helping the body to address that problem area. And so, again, there's always a reason why the body's doing something. The body is much more, or it's a lot smarter than we think or we give credit for. Again, it's actually very smart, and it's the only thing that can really heal your body is your body itself. So it's just time that really heals, not the medication, not the other things. Again, we always want to manage the stress, but your body is the one that's healing. And so here's a little bit more about the nervous system and blood pressure. So blood pressure, it just increases and decreases based on the demands for it. Again, the stress. So if you're having more stress, then you are going to increase your blood pressure. So again, there's only 3 types of stress that you can have, and it's physical, it's a chemical, and it's emotional. Now, physical, when you're resting, your blood pressure, of course, is not going to be elevated because you don't need blood to get to those muscles for you to be active. But again, when you're running, you need that blood pressure up. That body's saying it needs to push that blood to those areas so that you can function and you can run a long period of time or do certain activity for a while. So the chemical stress, it could be an imbalance of nutrition, such as too much sugar, which causes problems, and that increases your blood pressure. Again, when your blood gets overloaded with toxins, when it gets too much sugar in the body, sometimes it needs to get those toxins out of the body, and so that increases the blood pressure too. And the imbalance of nutrition can go along the lines of kind of your mineral intake too. And so you always want to be careful with that. Again, going back to those past videos that we did, sea salt always has all your trace minerals, so be sure to take the right salt, and Himalayan salt. We talked about that there too. So just want a little tidbit there. Again, emotional stress is important too. So if you're having stressful thoughts and all that, the brain doesn't know the difference. So again, the brain perceives stress the same as if you are perceiving it here, or if you're just thinking about it. So again, if you're thinking that or a good metaphor would be if you're thinking or stressing out about a talk that you have to do, or a talk that you did 20 years ago as a kid, you keep thinking, wow, I could have done better there. Well, you're still having those shakes, those sweaty palms, because the brain doesn't know the difference. Again, it's just how you perceive it. And that could be the emotional factor, is that if you keep having that over and over again, you're going to keep rising that blood pressure up and up and up. And no organism can live in chronic states of stress. So you always want to help mitigate that stress as much as possible. So here is an article, or a research article, about chiropractic and blood pressure. Again, we know that chiropractic is helpful in pain situations and all that too, but it does influence the nervous system, your brain and spinal cord. And so that they showed is that it's just straight from the article itself. The procedure has the effect of not 1, but 2 blood pressure medications given in combination. So again, there's always different things that you can work on, and chiropractic is helpful to help kind of the body to relieve that stress, to help calm the whole nervous system going on there. and not just masking the symptoms. And so why is the nervous system important? Well, it's the system that controls and coordinates all of the other organs. And so again, even the heart, the blood pressure, the liver, ones that makes the cholesterol, it's controlling all that. So you want to make sure that if you're perceiving stress a lot, if you're having stressful situations such as that physical, the new chemical, and the emotional, you want to make sure that you're at least taking time to help relax yourself. And there's many ways to do it. Chiropractic is just a good way, it's an effective way to help with that. Again, other things such as eating well, moving well, and allowing kind of the emotional aspect too, such as taking time to get rid of those negative thoughts or breathing once in a while helps to really kind of lower those stressful situations. So I think that's it for me. I'll turn it over to Eddie, and he'll tackle the emotional side.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Chip. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it. So we're going to go over emotional cholesterol. A lot of people don't put this in place together, but we're going to look at it as a sense of how, and you know it much, much more, but the subconscious mind. But I first want to start out with where cholesterol actually comes from. Dr. Mark and Dr. Chip did talk about it already, and it comes from the liver. And the liver produces about like 85% of all your cholesterol. So it is normally coming through you. However, there's a balance to it that we need to get making sure we're taken care of. However, there is something that actually promotes and increases this cholesterol. And if we kind of tie this together with, you know, hormones and thoughts and the signaling throughout the body, we can direct this directly to insulin. And insulin, we can talk a lot about different ways. You know, just when it comes to the actual diet itself, we're looking at high glycemic index carbohydrates, or when it gets broken down to the body, it's just simple sugars. So if we have a glycemic index that is very high with these carbohydrates, we can find ourselves having an emotional attachment to it. Once we eat something sugary and keep going back at it, we finally get ourselves going for those foods once and once again. And now we can go back to it actually being an addiction. I mean, a lot of these are emotional addictions when it comes to these high glycemic foods. A lot of these food companies might be looking at it as a sense of taking advantage of our little taste buds, whether there's the sweet, the salty, or savory, but they really do a good job to making sure we can spike up insulin. So that's one way of looking at it when it comes to addiction, but we can also attack that on an emotional way. Another one that we look at is chronic stress. Dr. Chip talked about it as well, but when we come to our thoughts, when we look at chronic stress, we're looking at a long period of time of how that stress came to be. So if we look at our stress, that's constantly with us, we got to look at our thoughts. We got to look at emotions and our feelings. So for instance, if I was a kid and I have stress by doing live presentations on Facebook and I keep holding on to that, I'm going to cause chronic stress and then I'll spike insulin. If I don't take care of that emotional side, then I'm going to keep producing cholesterol in my liver. I'm going to misimbalance it, and then I'm going to have some kind of health issues when it comes to that. Another way we look at it is sleep debt. You know, if we don't get enough sleep, we're not going to be able to relax our bodies. And another way we can look at, you know, not allowing to get enough sleep is kind of combining the two together. If we have chronic stress, we're not going to be able to sleep as much. If we don't sleep as much, then we're going to get more chronic stress. And it's the cycle of looping that we kind of figure out that we're kind of just stuck. But you know, I'm very passionate about what's going on next, and that's the good old subconscious mind. Because you guys all know that with the subconscious mind, trillion of things all at once. It records everything that you do. It's 95% of your life. It's built on habituation. It's not logically thinking, but it feels emotionally. So if we kind of attack this, and if we have chronic stress and the way we think for years on years on years, that is actually spiking your insulin, that is actually creating more cholesterol, then we can get to the underlying cause, get rid of that stress, you'll sleep much better. And if we think about the addictions with this as well, get yourself away from those sugary addictions, really overcome and be powered through your diet habits. And if you focus on the subconscious mind, all your worries might even go away. So when we look at this, we gotta, and I know it's kind of tough to say, but we really got to break a habit of being ourselves. If we are in this complete addiction, habits forming mind, And if we want to be someone else, we really have to change the way we actually think. And that can go through food. That can go from the way that we actually stand up, our posture, our physical health, as well as our emotional health. Just with kind of the goals that I've gone through, my mind is so much clearer just by focusing on what I actually think about on a day-to-day basis. And a part of the subconscious mind that we can look at is the actual unconscious mind, that we're unaware of these thoughts that are constantly going through our minds that cause chronic stress, insulin, this cholesterol. But the way that we look at things as a human being to making sure that we can break the habit of being ourselves is actually being the person who we want to be. If you want to be a calm person, you have to train your subconscious mind, make a habit out of it, be much calmer, get better sleep, not as much chronic stress, you won't have as much cholesterol. So if we be the person who we want to be, do the things that that person is actually doing, you will have lower cholesterol, you will have lower insulin levels, you will have less stress, you will sleep much better. So I wanted to bring that to your attention and how important the subconscious mind is, because once we tackle this, a lot of your health issues will probably go away. So just for a summary, Dr. Mark talked a little bit about the high blood pressure and what the causes with cholesterol and normalizing that blood pressure. Dr. Chip talked a little bit about the brain and the cholesterol and how the stress combines with blood pressure. And I touched briefly on the emotional cholesterol as well as the subconscious habit. So that is good for our first part of this health shop. Dr. Mark is going to go into his nutritional health shop, and he'll take it forward.
Told you I'd be back. Okay, good. So before we started doing our health shops, we always did our patient education workshops, and I was doing a little presentation on nutrition response testing and then chiropractic. So we'll do those after our health shops. I'm going to kind of start doing those again, just to kind of keep people know that how we do things in our office to help these problems we're talking about, because we're talking a good game here. We want to kind of show you what we do about it. So we'll start with some of the handouts we have. If you come to our health shops, we have some handouts that we normally hand out to patients that they can take home and look through. So I'll go through some of these, and if Eddie can put on my first triangle. Good. This gives you a little bit of an idea of the kind of the microcosm of the human body in a triangle form. We have organ dysfunction, disease, and nutritional deficiency. We'll come back to that in a second. There's a lot of myths and truths out there about nutrition, a lot of myths though. So we kind of want to be aware of that. And since tonight we're talking about heart disease, one of the myths I'm going to go over real quickly is that to avoid heart disease, we should use margarine instead of butter. Now, that is the myth. Now, of course, the truth is margarine eaters have twice the rate of heart disease as butter eaters. And again, since you've kind of heard me going on about the 50s and all that stuff, the history there, margarine was brought out as a way of getting away from butter and all that. And of course, cholesterol was the big culprit. Well, and of course, the statistics are not showing that now. That's what we're getting to is there's been enough time under our belts to see the statistics. All you got to do is go to the Center for Disease Control website, CDC's website, go into chronic disease, which we're talking about here on chronic disease, and you'll see all these graphs going up for heart disease, diabetes, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, we know that that's a problem. So this is a good example of a myth in there. Our health, what exactly is the problem? So this is a little description I want to read real quickly and kind of give you an idea what's been going on. Again, even more of the history. This is more back in the 20s when this started. So 1920s. We have drifted into this horrible position of national malnutrition quite inadvertently. It is the result of scientific research with the objective of finding the best ways to create foods that are non-perishable, made by mass production methods in central factories, and distributed so cheap that they can sweep all local competition from the market. Then, after develops a suspicion that these quote-unquote foods are unable to support life, modern advertising steps in to propagandize the people to believe there's nothing wrong with them, that they are the product of scientific research intended to produce a food that is the last buried nutritive value, and the confused public is totally unable to arrive at any conclusion of fact, and continues to blindly buy the rubbish that is killing them off years ahead of their time. It's written by Dr. Royal Lee, and more like 90 years ago. Now, Eddie kind of made a little point there about the addictions to sugar. And we're talking really about the high glycemic value, which is just table sugar here. This is refined sugar we're looking at here. And the problem with refined sugar, there's so many things I get rolling in my head here to put in an order, but the medical people look at sugar as being glucose. And yes, the body can run on glucose. It's not the best form, but it can run on that. The problem is that sucrose is half fructose and half glucose. And it's the fructose that causes a lot of trouble. And so again, if you look into this deeper, the biochemistry, you'll understand that. But that's why sugar, refined sugar, has become such a problem for us, even fruit sugar and things. But what we're talking about here that I read, Dr. Roy Lee was an engineer back in the day, and he had they were having problems with kids having all these dental cavities. And so he became a dentist actually to figure this out. So this is how I got into the nutritional aspect. And he's the developer of all the standard processed nutrition that we carry, the whole food nutrition company that we carry. A genius back in the day. There's several other ones too that were basically geniuses in figuring out this nutritional stuff back in the day before it actually became a moneymaker for pharmaceuticals. So lots of good information there. We have a sugar quiz that I normally have people do that are in our audience, but we're going to skip that today. They got a volleyball game to go to, so we'll skip past that. But the one handout we have is called the 146 Reasons Why Sugar is Ruining Your Health. And basically, this is a list of all the degenerative diseases that man has. Diabetes and heart disease, and you just name it, it's in here. Sugar causes all these problems. So I'll quickly just explain why that is. So if you have organ dysfunction, you're looking for, you're going to work towards a disease, a degenerative type disease, and that leads towards nutritional deficiency. And so the problem with sugar is that, and again, we're talking refined sugars, is there's no nutrition in it. All the nutrition and fiber and everything else has been taken out of it. It's just strictly sugar. The body was never meant to have that way. And that's why we're looking at, Eddie was talking about this becoming a subconscious habit addiction, is because it acts as like a drug in the body. Refined sugar actually increases the endorphin release, the dopamine release. So you actually are hooked on it. Manufacturers know this. They've been doing it to us for 70 years now on purpose. And so everybody's hooked into this thing. And even the holidays are set up. What do you have on every holiday? What are we going to have at Valentine's Day coming up? We're going to have chocolate and sugar and cake and all kind of junk. And it just keeps the cycle rolling. So anyway, before I go on for 2 more hours, the nutritional deficiencies, how we're going to affect this in our world. We're going to work on the nutritional deficiency side, because if you don't do that, this spiral just gets worse and worse, and your diseases get worse. They get to be more, and you have all kind of problems, and you're on more medications. Trying to handle the blinking red light on the dashboard. So we want to look at the underlying causes there. So go ahead. Good. So if we put sugar up here at the top, it works the same way. And again, we're looking at this being refined sugars, your high glycemic value sugars, but really they're all kind of the same. But again, the more sugar you eat, the more addiction you are, the more nutritional deficiency you have, the more organ dysfunction you have, and it becomes a big downward spiral. We want to stop that. So go ahead. So a couple more handouts we go over. The sugar's many disguises. We're up to 62 different names now for sugar on the packages in your grocery store. So a lot of times you look on the packages and it won't say anything. You don't think, yeah, no sugar in there. Well, you might have dextrose and corn syrup and corn sweetener and lactose and maple syrup and raw sugar. One of the worst ones is agave nectar. What is agave nectar? Nobody knows what it is. It's a high fructose syrup stuff, and it just sounds like it's no big deal, but it's just a big pile of sugar. It's in a lot of things. And of course, the worst one is the fructose. I just talked about that, high fructose corn syrup, and that took over from cane sugar back in the 60s, 70s, because it's a lot cheaper, and a lot of politics behind it too, but that's a whole nother 2 more hours later. So that's a good handout there. The 3 tastes, again, the body has a taste for sugar, salt, and fats. And that was it put into us, actually developed into us as a way of handling famine. So in times of famine in our past histories, so the body could just survive by getting sugar, salt, and fats. So, and again, that's the manufacturers know how to use this against us. So if they're producing foods that they want to get you hooked on, they know how to manipulate that. And so people buy ding dongs and ding dongs and ding dongs and Twinkies and all that because they're hooked on it. I mean, it's actually an addiction, even worse. You know, I think it's 5 or 8 times worse than cocaine. It's worse than alcohol, and it's very hard to get off. So before there, we were talking about just get off of sugar. Well, that's easier said than done. You have to know how to do it. There's ways we help our patients nutritionally to get the minerals they need and build the digestion so they can actually absorb good foods. Most people have digestive issues. All they absorb is the carbohydrates. They don't absorb the proteins and the fats and the good minerals. So we have to fix digestion too and do a lot of detox in our patients. We're getting to that here when we talk about nutrition response testing. Just talk about nutrition response testing. So the technique that we use in our office called nutrition response testing is a way for us in real time to figure out what's wrong with the body, to figure what does the body need nutritionally. And it works with an arm strength test. Now, I've been doing this for 38 years, coming up in March, and we've been through blood tests, urine analysis, hair analysis, salivary testing. Those tests are great for disease processes or whatever else you're looking for there. They don't really help you much with nutritional needs, what organs need what you're deficient in. So our nutrition response testing is just a way of doing that using an arm strength test. So what I'm going to do is have Dr. Chip come up, and he's going to help me demonstrate this. So what we do is by checking the arm strength, we'll just check the arm, and it's strong, so relax the arm. So we're working on the principle of hypothermia here, is how this principle works with an arm strength test. So in hypothermia, say for instance, you're going to go ice skating, you get your ice skates on, you go out on the lake, fall in, get back out. Well, you want to get back to the house before you freeze. What will happen is the body will sacrifice the fingers and toes, the appendages, to keep the core alive. This is how the wiring is in there, and it will pull the energy, the circulation, the nerve energy out of the appendages to keep your core alive. So how we do that, then, if we strengthen, touch the arm, and the arm is strong, we know that the body's good. So say, for instance, the heart is weak. If I irritate the sympathetic nervous system over the heart, the body will sense that there's a problem there if the heart is weak, and will pull the energy out of the arm. The arm goes unlocked. We know that there's a problem with the heart there. So it's not magic, it's not voodoo, it's just strictly dealing with this hypothermic reaction that we know how to work. Then, if we have some nutrition that we think is good for that, we put the energy of this nutrition in the body's energy. This is the same energy as the sunlight coming through the window, or how an MRI works, magnetic resonance imaging works. That's all on magnetic energy, electromagnetic energies. So we're going to put this energy on the body, and then irritate that heart again. If the arm is strong, then I know that this nutrition will help that problem. That's how we figure that out. And of course, it becomes more complicated per person's need, but everybody's body is different. And we also have to go through detox first, then digestion, then work on these issues. And we know how to do that too, as we test through. So that gives you just a quick little example of how we do our nutrition response testing. Good job. Okay, great. So when we do our testing, we come up with a designed clinical nutrition approach. So the point there to realize is this is designed for that person. So each person, each body has individual needs. Now, the epigenetics thing that we talked about there before, certain families have certain needs. If you notice, some families have heart issues, some families have diabetes, some families have cancer. Those are all, they're kind of a genetic part. But what we can do with the diet and lifestyle is turn those genes off. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So we're designing that for that person. It's a very individualized, no program is the same. Clinical means that we don't care what it is nutritionally, as long as it works. We've had patients bring in grocery bag full of vitamins for us to test and figure out. So they're spending, thousands of dollars on stuff that doesn't work. VAs, a lot of times, will get patients to spend less on nutrition because we can figure out what they actually need, and we're very efficient at doing that. And then again, nutrition means that it's whole food nutrition. These are not vitamins from from the retail stores that are just a single vitamin, like a high vitamin E product. That's not food. That's a synthetic vitamin. Or most of your multiple minerals are synthetic. We talked about that last week in our health shops. You can look that up on YouTube, but a little more detail on that. But those things do not help with health. They make your urine nice and colored. So you're not working on health that way. So you want to find things that actually help the body to be healthy. That's what we do with our testing. One of our handouts is some testimonials from patients. We send that along. A little explanation too on nutrition response testing, a little more in-depth explanation than I'm presenting here. We do use blood tests from patients if they have those tests already. This was one on enlarged spleen, and we got the patient better. Their spleen came back to normal size, and the medics didn't have any idea how that could happen. It was like an enigma to them. They didn't understand it. Then we have one here on vitamin D that was kind of brought up before, how we increased the vitamin D level and didn't even give them vitamin D. It was just by getting their digestion under control, getting them to be able to absorb the fats in their diet, because your fat, vitamins A, D, E, and K are fat soluble. You just get those in natural oils and fats. So you want to, of course, eat good oils and fats, which is against the cholesterol thinking of nowadays. You want to have good fats, but again, you have to be able to digest them. That's the thing. That's the key. And then the hemoglobin A1C, we went from an 8.0% to a 6.6, headed to under a 5.7. Again, this is just changing diet, getting them off of the sugars there, which is, again, easier said than done. If you come to our patient education workshops, we do have a public education workshop screening form that you can fill out, and we do a mini exam on our people that come to our health shops. But since you're taking the time to watch us tonight, you can still do that. If you come to the office or call the office, just say the word cloverleaf, we will still do this for you. Just got to mention that word. We're happy to just kind of give you a quick little idea of what we can do to help and kind of show you how it works. There's a book list here. There's lots of books out here that have all this information in it, lots of websites. The westonprice.org website is a very good place to look up this information, organic growing, organic eating. There's even videos available on Netflix and YouTube that you can get up for free that explain more about this too. I mentioned a couple of the authors before that go over some good information there. This is a quick one on the new childhood in America. We're having problems with obesity. We're having problems with ADHD and seizures and all kinds of things. So autism. It's getting worse, not getting better. Then just to explain what we're looking at is overall health. Now, patients come into our office, they usually have 4, 5, 6 major symptoms. We're asking about their 5 major symptoms, and we track that as a way of watching the lights on the dashboard thing. You want to see how many lights are up there and then see how they start to blink off. But those are not what we're mostly concerned with. We're mostly concerned with overall health. We find that we just get the patient healthy by either the nutritional approach that we do, the chiropractic work that we do, get the nervous system to control the body, get it back to health, and the emotional work we do, then we can get the body healthy. And this is optimum health, not just pain-free. We talk about optimum health here, so it's a big difference. Most of the people think that treatment or medical treatment health is pain-free. Well, that's not even close to really what health is all about. And then what we're doing, of course, is safe and natural. They're just using food, so it's safe. There's no side effects other than you get well. And natural just means it's food. No problems there. One of our biggest side effects is that if things start to work well, then we have to get people off the medications. So, for instance, we're talking about blood pressure here. We have to monitor blood pressure if people are on blood pressure medications, because when we start getting them the cause gone, the blood pressure gets too low. So it's an interesting problem to have, but it's just something we enjoy having that problem. So then our diet recommendations. Our diet here at the office is very simple. Basically, we had patients do proteins in the morning, salads for lunch, and protein vegetable for evening. That's it. And it's just a matter of, that's just as simple as we want it. We're not measuring with measuring cups and different things like that and counting carbs and all that. We're just getting the people to eat good, real foods and getting them off the carbs as soon as possible. And we use something called gradient scales too, where some people, it takes them a whole year to get their diets calmed down under control because they've been on things for so long. Of course, a couple of rules we follow: staying away from refined flour and sugar. You may have figured that out already. Try not to eat your proteins and fats in the same meal as you have starches and carbs. That's a digestive issue. And we're also finding too, if you combine those, you really increase your insulin levels. Now, that's something I kind of forgot about before in my presentation on stuff. The number that you look at in your blood test to check on your sugar is the glucose number, glucose in the blood. And it's normally under 100, you're not considered diabetic. The problem is that they should be measuring insulin. So insulin will go up, and it'll go so high that eventually the pancreas can't produce enough. When that happens, then the insulin goes down and the sugar goes up, and then you are classified or diagnosed as diabetic. That's what that is. The problem is if you're not watching the insulin over time, you can go into diabetes where you could have caught it years ahead if you've been paying attention to the insulin number. So that's just a little aside to it. I wish they watched that, but they don't. So anyway, it's just something we watch. I think I've covered that. Good. The last thing I'd like to read through is our little last sentence here about many of our eating habits have been trained into us for generations. For instance, Grandma was a good baker, Mom was a great baker, so every Christmas we eat 10 pounds of fudge, somehow catch the flu in January, and have a history of diabetes and heart disease in our family. So many of the genetic issues that we hear about are not genetic, they're familial. It's just that because they eat the same foods, have the same habits as everybody's had over time. And so it's important to realize that the genes are just a blueprint in the body. That if you, for instance, you're going to build a house and you have the same blueprint, if you use all good wood and straight nails and good shingles and use that blueprint, you're going to have a great house, the roof won't leak, it'll last forever. But if you're using the same blueprint with bad rusty old nails, bent nails, bad boards with knot holes, and the shingles that have holes in them, same blueprint, you're going to have a house that's going to have a leaky roof, going to blow over, all kind of problems. Same thing goes along with this. The genes are just a blueprint. They have no control over what they do. They are controlled by the diet and lifestyle. This is the study of epigenetics, or the science of epigenetics, that turns on the genes. So if you know what you're doing with your diet and your lifestyle and the things we've talked about, you can turn off the bad genes, the cancer genes, the diabetes, the heart disease, those kind of things. You can turn off those red lights on your dashboard by getting that's all under control and getting the body actually truly healthy. So I think that pretty much covers everything else I wanted to go over. Our next health shop, Valentine's Day, is on love. It's on love?
Yeah.
Oh boy, that should be fun. I don't know about nutrition we can do about love, but there's probably something they can figure out. Remember too that we're doing this live on Facebook and Instagram. We want to thank everybody for watching tonight. If you can kind of look through these, we have changed our Facebook to Natural Health Quincy, Illinois, or IL. So look through that. We have our own YouTube channel and Brighteon.com channel. You can always give us a call if you can't find these things. If you want to watch some of our previous videos there. Again, remember the word cloverleaf. If you want to come in and have a little test on the nutrition or anything really, I think we're all willing to help anybody just get an idea of what we're doing here to try to help. We're so sick and tired of people having all this dire, drastic health problems, all the pain they're going through, the agony, and they want to find something else, but they can't find anything else. Well, we are the something else. We can help out. You have to be patient with the body. It's not these things we do here are not miracle cures overnight. They take time to help the body heal up. But we really want to try to help people. We want to try to get this information out. Tell your friends, neighbors, anybody that we can help with. We've had some pretty emotional times here in our family in the last couple of weeks, burying one of our relatives with cancer. It's just things that you just wish you could get a hold of people and they would listen a little bit. So anyway, that's great. Any questions, give us a call. Anything else you guys want to add? Otherwise, I'll sign off.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you on Valentine's Day, and we'll talk about love.